Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Before we get into today's upload, I want to apologize for the other night. The hour-long upload kind of ripped my throat, so at the tail end of it, you could really hear it. I had to take a couple of days break. My throat is still not really feeling great, and I'm kind of going through a bunch mentally with the upcoming surgery and stuff. So I apologize for the brief time that I took. I'm going to try not to, but I don't know, I may. Today I'm going to be drinking some hot lemon ginseng tea, so hopefully that helps the throat out while I'm recording this, because I've got an amazing upload. I've got a ton of Q&A from William, and very detailed, and I do have a lot of subscriber encounters. So before we get into today's upload, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fan fiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Last but not least, I'm dedicating today's upload to Kelly. Thank you so much for everything that you have done for me. Now, I've taken enough of your time, guys. Let's get on with today's encounters and Q&A. Shall we? Today's first part of the upload is a subscriber encounter from Booney. Okay, I used to work as a security officer in Finns Point National Cemetery, Pennsville, New Jersey. This encounter happened in late August 2019, and I was working the night shift. My yellow Jeep Renegade was in front of the blue garage. It was time for me to make my calls to check in with headquarters, and also time for me to drive laps around the cemetery. The first 3 laps were normal, no problems. The 4th time I drove towards the gate, I saw back legs of something big jog past the right side of the gate. This caught me by surprise more than anything. This thing was big. The back of the creature was over 4 feet high. The fence at its highest point is maybe 8 to 10 feet. I never saw the top half. I believe it was hunting something outside of the brick fence. I remember it having a German Shepherd color, with more brown than black. I had my windows open in the Jeep and heard it running soundly, very heavy. I remember yelling at it in fear. Even though it wasn't bothering me, I was so scared it would come back, and I panicked. I called my buddy, Piney, who lives maybe 2 to 3 miles from the cemetery. When he didn't answer, I started praying. That calmed me down. This was my very first encounter. I have always believed in these creatures. I joined NADP sometime in September or October and became a researcher and field investigator. Today's second part of the upload is going to be some Q&A from William. James Browning asks, "Thank you both, Jeff and William. It seems that after listening to each episode, my list of questions gets longer and longer. Please feel free to answer any number of these that you wish. Thank you, William, and please stay safe. Number 1, are Dogman related to the cynocephaly of ancient lore? Answer: no, they are all separate breeds and evolved different. I don't know the exact difference that entails, but I will get an answer to you. It was explained to me before, but I really didn't pay much attention when it was told to me. Number 2, can you tell us the process of how Sebastian and Raphael were initially captured? The answer: they were both tranquilized. Sebastian was taken in 1952 in Houma, Louisiana, along with a group of 15 females from that general area. The original Dogman we had came from Taylor, Mississippi in 1954, along with 12 females from that same town, and died in 1984. Raphael was then captured and tranquilized in 1984, also in Taylor, Mississippi, and is still in captivity today. Number 3. Has there been any genetic or physical modification done to any of these creatures intended to be used for military purposes? There have been no modifications done either to any of them other than the chip and doing the mind-altering about attacking people of the United States. Number 4. What is the IQ of the Dogman and or werewolf? Answer. The Dogman has never been tested, as the Bigfoot also never been tested. The werewolf was given it, but refused to write in front of us, but answered questions by reading them and then answering them, but never demonstrated the skill to write. The females scored around 88 and the males 100, which would put them above the normal male average of 98. If they had demonstrated the ability to write, that score would have gone up by 7 points or so. That would have meant 107 werewolf to a human score of 98. Glad mine is higher, not bragging by any means, just proud it's higher than theirs. Number 5. What is the approximate grade level that Sebastian is capable of reading and comprehending? I'm sure that he can read and understand anything he wants. He is quite a good debater when he wants to discuss something of interest to him. I cannot draw him into talk about religion. He avoids the subject with me, and I believe it's because he knows that I know more about it than he does. Number 6. I remember seeing a photograph, supposedly taken during World War II, showing a group of German soldiers in the woods with what appeared to be a dead female werewolf. It appeared that the female exhibited several pairs of developed breasts, the largest being positioned in the upper chest, similar to the location of a human female, with subsequent smaller pairs extending down to the front of her chest and into the abdomen. Is this picture accurate in portraying the real anatomy of a female dogman and or werewolf? Not sure of the photo you're talking about, but it sounds to me like a female dogman is what you're describing. We'll have to try to find that picture for sure. Would love to see it. Also, a female werewolf only has 2 breasts, just like a human woman. Question number 7. What is the nature of the intense fear and senses of impending doom dread that people experience even before seeing or realizing that one of these creatures is in their presence? Is this due to some type of psychic projection by the creature? Number 7 question answered. I guess this comes in when you would get inside what we call the silent zone, when everything around you goes quiet. There is a predator in your midst. It doesn't have to be a monster. It can be a real predator like a cougar or a bear or some sort of dangerous animal. It can be one of these creatures. No way to exactly know till you spot it, and its eyes then will let you know. Question 8. Is the intensely strong, disagreeable smell frequent associated with the encounter caused by poor hygiene on the part of the creature, or is it due to some type of glandular secretion similar to that of a skunk? Answer to number 8. It's due to poor hygiene, and they're not taking good care of themselves. Most do take care of themselves. The 2 that kept me alive in Wyoming probably thought that I stunk, not having taken a bath in a couple of days. But those 2 females were soft as silk and had no odor. They felt good against me, and Justin didn't smell before he went to get my clothes. He was dirty upon return, and then from then on he had a slight odor to him, but nothing offensive. So they have to take baths, warm or cold. Also, William mentioned that supposedly, or he thought that it may be because sometimes sleeping in graveyards. Number 9, are there any countries where these creatures are known to not exist? Yes, there are other countries where they are known to exist. We get calls all of the time asking for assistance with them, but We can barely have enough agents to cover what we have in this country. Spain is the only other country that has a unit similar to ours. Question 10. Is either creature capable of seeing the infrared light from a trail cam? All three can see it and can hear them as well, plus the smell we leave upon them. They will know if it's real or fake. You aren't going to fool them. They may have to move really fast and miss one, but not very often. Question 11. Can you describe what the creature's underground enclosures are like? Are they made to look like their natural habitat, or more like a zoo enclosure? We try to make them feel as much like a natural enclosure as we can. Each time we clean one of these enclosures and set it back up, we re-landscape it to look totally different. 5 or 8 acres each time. It costs about $120,000 each 6 weeks, so it's a pretty big landscaping job, lots of details of work. Number 12, where do the creatures live in the wild? Do they burrow in holes and sleep underground? And is there a particular type of topography that their homes would typically be found? The Bigfoot will build a structure to stay dry in if they can't find natural surroundings that will suit their wishes. The werewolves, when they move into an area, this is their thing they look for, somewhere that is dark and dry to go into and rest during mostly daylight hours. And then you have the Dogman. He likes being around graveyards and will dig a hole on top of the grave and sleep in it. It really doesn't matter if it fills up with water. This creature just doesn't care for comforts of any kind. I also think this is why they come back smelling like death all of the time when they get called back in. Question 13, and lastly, if you don't mind, could you tell me if there are any of these creatures in Leelanau County, Michigan? And if so, are there any near Omina? Let's just say there are almost 1 for every 2 citizens in your town. It's really bad up there. The only reason I'm answering this is because you asked the very first week. You have 48 Dogman and 64 werewolves, and you're not safe to go out after dark in your town, but there's nothing I can do to help it at this time either. Stay vigilant and stay close at night. Keep your young and old close, and tell your friends and family that you care about staying indoors till I can get some help out there. I'm sorry, Bill. Jeffrey Lane asked, William, is there a Weapon X program like Wolverine? Has the military tried to mix Dogman werewolf DNA with a human being to upgrade them? Jeffrey, first, sorry to hear about your loss of your friend. This virus is awful. It doesn't care who it takes out, but I'm truly sorry for your loss. At this time, there are no programs that I am aware of myself like the Weapon X program. No, these DNAs will never be mixed, as we need these creatures in the purest forms for them to be able to work as weapons of war for us. Wolfka asks, William, how soon can you start telling us some of your missions you have been on? Wolfka actually started on another today. Thought it would be a good place to start, but soon as I realized some people want to hear it, I'm going to need my folder to make sure I get everything correct. Tim Normand asked, question to William, how many werewolves or Dogman are in East Central Louisiana? Thank you, sir. Tim, I can't answer this question any longer. Sorry. I will say this, unless you live in northeast quadrant of the county, you're fairly safe to do anything that you want to do. Also, guys, we are in like the 4th upload that he said he cannot answer any more of these. So either people are not listening or they just don't care and want to keep asking. So until he has the okay, let's not ask that, because it's honestly just a waste of your time typing it and a waste of his time trying to figure a way of answering it without getting himself into trouble. All right. M. Clark asks, William, I'd also like to ask you, and this is kind of personal, I guess, so if you don't want to answer it, it's fine, of course. But when you were made aware of these creatures that are really out there, did that affirm your spiritual convictions? Or I guess what I'm trying to say is, did it make you believe in heaven and hell and God and Satan even more? Because it does that for me. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, if you would, sir. Also, do either show any racist feelings towards us and all our different races that you are aware of? If you read this on the air, no, I am not a racist, just trying to learn all I can while I can. Well, M, I'm glad you asked me about this. I was raised in a Baptist home, both parents being of great faith. I was told of the Bible and what it meant, and yes, at an early age I was made to go to Sunday school, followed by church. Then I am not sure when, but they just quit getting me up to go to church with them. They would return home and tell me about church service. I could listen or I could walk away. I was about 8 years old at the time. My grandmother lived in our household till she was 104. She outlived both parents, and I had an aunt move in to my parents' home to take care of her. And that is a huge mistake on my part, but that's long ago and done now. Anyway, I asked her why I wasn't being made to go to church, and my dad happened to be home that week. And she told him what I had asked, so me and my dad were out riding around, and he brings it up and tells me that religion is a man's choice, and you don't force it on anyone. He and my mother had shown us kids what it was all about, and it would be up to us if we wanted to follow that path or try something else on our own. Nothing would be pushed on his kids. So he was going to have to go back to work on Monday, and Sunday rolls around. And I'm up and dressed for church and sitting at the kitchen table long before anyone else is even up. We all went to church together, and then his visits started to get fewer and fewer over the years, but like me now, we both attended the same church in Virginia. But as the years rolled on, the deeper I got into it, and by the age of 15, I turned my life over to him without question. And that I would never question what he led me into that I follow. So I prayed one night about the armed forces and which branch, and if that would be his way of showing me a sign. The very next morning there was a Marine recruiter beating down on my mom and dad's front door to talk to me. I had no idea what field to go into and prayed again. And he said to make sure he knows how well you can shoot. So we are sitting and talking, and he brings it up. I answer, and we go back with metal pigs set up at 550 yards, and I take my 7mm Remington Magnum freehand and shoot 4 times and hit 4 times. He was impressed, so he sets my MSO before I even got the intel I could shoot, and taught me the rest. Then the rest is history. I did my years killing people, asking for forgiveness, and then getting involved in the CIA. But when I accepted Jesus as my Savior, I then knew that there was a heaven and a hell. Both are real, and we are all going to reside in one or the other someday. I just pray that my good outweighs my bad when that day comes for me to go before the great white throne of judgment. No, they are not racist unless they would be programmed for that, and I will not allow that. David Pathel asked, Hey Jeff, I can't see where there is a problem with having more than one incident with the use of ammonia. I know a relative of a very close friend who managed to get some lion feces from a local zoo to keep deer out of the orchids. Strange thing is, he swears he saw a large wolf come to the edge of the orchard and move back into the surrounding woods. Ask Mr. William if he is aware of any of these practices. And should he have time, what are the numbers around Kannapolis, North Carolina? I've heard that you can use any kind of foreign scat, and animals that do not recognize it will move away from it, not knowing what it is, only that it came from something that it doesn't understand. From Kannapolis, North Carolina, to Miranda, North Carolina, in the north to Powers Estate, North Carolina, in the west back down to Codal Creek, North Carolina. In the south, I would not want to be in this area after dark myself, but there is nothing I can do at this moment. My men are locked down for 45 days and myself in the hospital. Don't be out after dark in these areas. Nothing has happened, but it could. Sorry I can't help. Bill. Yorktown, 1781. People have to be careful in the evenings around their homes. Just trying to think of a better way to work this if there is. It's only certain areas where people seem to have to be more vigilant, mostly around the outside edges of the United States. They don't seem to band together as much on the interior states as they do on the exterior. Also, a good way to know if they are around is to have a mid-sized mutt around, the best alarm dog there is. You don't want a purebred, you want a mutt. Heinz 57, something to clean up. Keep inside with you, and it will be loyal. That's what you want most, effective kind of mutt from the pound. Yorktown, sir, I have put my life into this program and keeping the people safe. And if you, sir, have any ideas, I will listen to them as long as it's not so kind of kill off the Dogman or werewolf population, because they are bigger plans for these creatures, should the need arise. And yes, I would be glad to lead a force of almost 48,000 male werewolves against any army in the land confrontation, even if I'm 70 years old, provided I'm still in shape to do so. Also, Yorktown, I am sorry I acted in such a bad way and ask for your forgiveness, as I also ask for the Father's. The statements I read you posted are true and correct. We need more answers on how to keep more people safe. But there are things I can't discuss with the crowds that are of national security, that I myself play a major role in. We all are hoping these days never come, but it's looking more likely now than ever, so America needs to get back on her knees like we were when we first became a nation and pray. And I mean pray from hearts, not just saying the words of hope. Mike Naborowski asks, is this heart-soul gaze a visual eye contact or some other of sensory type of thing? Does that explain why eye contact is so terrifying? Has a werewolf ever killed somebody for simply being a terrible person? Mike, are you asking if they can see into your soul through your eyes? I would say yes. He can read me like an open book sometimes. I actually dread my next meeting with Sebastian, as I'm sure he will see something wrong with me and my family, and I will have to sit down and explain it to him. And it would be hard to make him understand after it's been so long, and I told him it would never end. I'm sure there are accounts of it happening. I don't know that I've ever seen any documented cases of it happening or not. No one asks? I would definitely be interested in hearing Sebastian's voice and how well he composes sentences. Sorry to stick my nose in on your question, but I'm wondering if William has a handheld device like a cell phone or a GPS locator that zones in on the creatures' signal from their microchips. As for the wild beasts, I'm thinking that William has been taught, possibly by his father, or learned most of the signs to look for from all his years of experience that stand out to him, which a regular person would not recognize. I will post this up as soon as I can. I have to have clearance to post this, and he is going to give it to me probably after the hot spots are taken care of. So it will be a little bit, folks. Yes, I have a device that fits on my wrist that I use to track after we get in range if they are tagged ones. Yes, I do. If they are wild, you have to track them the old-fashioned way by signs most people will never see, even if you point it out to them. Most people will walk right by them, but we are trained to look for them so as to know how to track these creatures. See Win 24/7 Statement. William, do you have any knowledge or heard through the grapevine about time travel projects in the 70s using children? I have some memories that are strange, to say the least, but they have never faded. I never told anyone, and until fairly recent, never heard a story like mine. Until a whistleblower came forward. Not joking. Definitely not a troll, just seeking answers where I can find them. Sorry, I'm not familiar with this, but if you're willing to share your experience with Jeff, I will spend some time probing our archives to see what I can find. Chris Gomez asks, the reason I ask is because a few years back, the Umatilla Reservation made national news for unusual sounds coming from the wooded area in a residential neighborhood on a res. If you've seen the video, could you please tell us what is making these sounds, Dogman or werewolf or Bigfoot? I will put the video link in the description. Pretty much what it is it's a Native American on the res, mid-30s, dark, well-lit area. And there is some really creepy-ass howls or sounds coming from the woods. And, I live in the Adirondacks of New York, so we have a lot of wildlife up here. And, you hear bobcat, cries, fox. This was nothing that I've heard. But that link will be in the description. It is a dogman, and it's trying to locate others, meaning it's a loner, and could have been potentially very dangerous. The small arm fire sounds like it comes from a .22 caliber handgun, and that last shot hit the dogman on some part of its body. Also, if you notice, as soon as he is hit, he goes silent, and the other dogs return barking. This is because he doesn't feel superior anymore at that moment. And that's how quick the tide can turn. Most will not turn like that, so it makes me think it was hit in a sensitive area of the body. Monaco Sandoval asks, William, which of the big three are acclimated to South Texas weather, and which are located near Corpus Christi? All three are in your area. I can't say for sure about Bigfoot at this time. I have no way of tracking them. But you have plenty of the others around your area, especially the Dogman. Daryl Ogle asks, my question, it seems like you send the Dogman first. I'm guessing because they multiply faster. But when is it a good time to send in the werewolf? And can you send them in together? Actually, Daryl, the Dogman would be called in as a last resort, if they have not been tested as the werewolf has been tested, and we know the outcome with the werewolves. So if it comes down to shit hitting the fan, I will take 48,000 male werewolves into battle with me instead of a Dogman, and only call them up as a last reserve, should I fail. Tim asks, William, how are you tracking down the werewolf/Dogman when you go on these hunts? Do you have a handheld device or to track their chips? William, what can you tell us about reptilians? Do you ever have to take them out, and have you ever seen one in its truest form? Well, first I use my computer to get in the general area, and they are supposed to be in. Then I look for a sign of them being there to start with signs most people would not think to look for. After making sure I'm in the right area and get down to it, I know it's the right area. Then is when I go into hunt mode. I have a very small wristband that fits on the opposite side of my watch. So when I'm holding my rifle, I don't have to take my hand off my rifle to look and see it start to track if it's tagged. But if not, you have to use the signs it's left for you to either follow it or track it down. Basically, I know they show up just about every presidential speech he makes, and sometimes they manifest themselves, and sometimes they don't. They have to manifest themselves for us to take them down, even though we can tell who they are ahead of time. But before they leave, we escort them to a secure area, let them know that we know who they are, and that they are never to return again, and pull their press pass. Yes, in secure area, if they start to manifest themselves, we will take them out without any question. No, I've never seen one in its truest form. I've only seen pictures. I always seem to be far away when they manifest themselves to the public, as they do so often. Brian Williams asks, I was wondering how old the werewolves are before you let them have their freedom. Well, Brian, it depends on how quick they mature. Some seem to mature quicker than others and are released into the wild earlier. But your answer is 4.5 to 8 years of age. The Dogman is 5 to 7 years of age, and they are put out in groups of 7 at a time. Richard Cox asked, my retired drug agent friend has told me of incidences where drug human traffickers were found mangled, dismembered around the southern border. He says that although rival gangs are known to do such, this is beyond what another human could do. He chalks it up to Sasquatch, but when I mentioned the possibility of a Dogman, he rolled his eyes. Do you think this is most likely happenstance? Or can you say if some agency may have sent dogs on these sickos? Also, since the Dogman are the most deplorable of the three, why not try to breed them out of existence and use resources to have more refined werewolf populations? Well, me being the only person alive right now that has the code to use these animals for what you are describing, I would say no. It's not written down. I have given it to no one, and I change it at odd intervals, but it sounds like something any of the three are capable of. Right now, myself would be all for that. But the way the new orders that are written and signed in 2016 says to continue with both breeds, I cannot discontinue the Dogman over the werewolf program because it has proven to work fighting machine. Zach Contreras statement. Damn, who is this Al Berry guy? William didn't like him. You're right, Zach, I don't care for Al. He is someone who has caused a great deal of harm to true researchers in the Bigfoot and werewolf field. Until Al came along and weaseled his way into the picture with him, find some of Ron Moorhead's videos on YouTube without Al Berry's name attached to them, and watch them, and watch some that do have his name attached to them, and you will see the difference. I don't know why Ron ever allowed himself to get into bed with this kind of fake character in the first place. All he did was take Ron down and get himself lifted before anyone caught on to what was happening, with Al coming on board and everything going fake. Yes, I very do dislike him. Busy Mountain asks, wondering your thoughts on subversive use of these beings. Is it likely someone high up to put this program together to use these creatures at another time with intent to release them on civilians? I know it sounds hellish and catastrophic, but these beings are similar to Super Soldier MK Ultra, that are positioned in the United States for release at future time. Maybe like a last resort at dominance, if these crazy Satanists can't get their way. It would just nice to know what kind of precautions are in place. As always, there are no precautions set in place at all times, and the sequence was taught and then destroyed over seen it, and with 100% knowledge, there are no other copies. My former CO, mine was erased, involuntary, so he no longer has any knowledge of what he did for almost 50 some odd years. So right now, it's only me. Jonathan Linger asks, I've always had this feeling. Think I asked William about it in another video. If it was ever planned to have these things turn on their own. I know he said he is in it for his fellow Americans, but if it ends up being an uprising against the government, what's to stop them from unleashing their pets on our people? Here's what's going to stop them. I will disobey my orders and never turn them loose on the American people. It will never happen as long as I am in charge of these creatures, and that's through 2030, if I'm still in shape to lead them. After that, I have to turn it over to someone younger than myself to lead them. So I intend to stay in the best shape I can even after I retire. It's just like I say, they will use the military to come and get our guns. We took a survey and asked troops how many of you would be willing to approach an American home and ask for their firearms to be handed over to you. We polled 40,000 troops from all branches, and out of that 40,000, 16 said they'd be willing to do what the government said, but the rest sided with the American citizen. Bill Schnecks asks, William, is there any Dogman or werewolf near Hollister, California? I've asked 4 times, please let me know. Bill, I'm sorry I can't give out numbers right now, but I will say this. I've been watching your area for a little while, and if you walk or run for exercise, do it in the early evening as early morning is when they are most active in your area. Sorry I can't give you numbers. Gregory Toll asks, William, if you were to send a dogman or werewolf to kill someone, would it truly only kill the one assigned, or would it kill everyone present? It should only kill the target given unless it thinks the others also need to be taken out. But if it follows orders, as they did in Vietnam, they would walk into a village and find their target, kill them, and leave by the same path they went in on. But that was a problem. They didn't want to return to the handlers at all. They would complete the mission, then just leave by a different route, and we'd never see them again. Dana F. asks, William, I know I've asked 3 times over the weeks, but I'd really like to know. You said you had to send people to scatter the dogman and werewolves at Terre Haute, Indiana. I live an hour by car in El Dorado, Illinois. It's a very small town, 1 stoplight. My husband saw a werewolf, we think, on the way home from work, eating its kill, feet off the highway, a mile from our town. I've worried it's followed him home. We hear and see things that make us believe this. I would just like to know, when you scatter them in Terre Haute, will you send a lot of them to our small town? Is there already a lot of them in my town? It's already been busted up and spread out. There is actually no way of knowing how far they will travel. Most of the time, it is many miles, like a minimum of 250 to 400 miles, and sometimes much greater distances, and some never leave or moved only a short distance. I know it's no longer a hot spot. What are you seeing that makes you think that it followed your husband home? You are safe to move around your neighborhood freely. No worries at this time. They're there, but the numbers are in your favor. Cindy Washington asks, Thank you for sharing. Do people have the choice to have their memories taken away? If not, this seems wrong and against our freedom. Some ask in a subtle way if they want help with their experience, and most take it. But there are others that don't, and you can't just tell that if something is not done, they will cause the United States problems down the road. So yes, we erase these involuntary, and trust me, when I say it's better for the good of the people rather than the good of an individual. Let's just take my former CO. He still had the sequence and could have sent these creatures into full hostile mode, and glad he did not, but he could have. And I'm sure this crossed his mind so much that once he cleared his office that day, I changed the sequence again just to make sure he could not do this. And now I'm walking around, the only one who knows this code to get it into motion. Brian M. asks, William, thank you for sharing your experiences and knowledge. Sir, this information will save lives. My question is, you said in previous upload that the big three are turning evil, like the Dogman turning on a pack mentally. Are there concerns that the newly released breeds will be influenced by the wild ones? Yes, that is some of my concerns, that the Dogman are returning to the wild side more so than the werewolf. I believe the Dogman is more easily persuaded to turn back into pack mentality than that of the werewolf due to its lower IQ, and it's more of a fowler anyway, for less likely to lead, I would think. Most of our trouble comes from the wild ones on both sides, but if you were to add up the total of kills, it would fall on the Dogman. The Jinx 1 asks, Hey William, any info on vampires? Yes, they do exist, probably not the way you think. We don't have to deal with them because most of them commit B&B. They are real folks who drink real whole blood, so they must break into labs and places that store whole blood. Red Cross facilities that are not manned 24 hours a day are the worst places in the world that get broken into. These so-called vampires break in, steal the whole blood that they can carry out and get away with it. Put it in a cooling system they have and pour it into glasses. Or put a hole into the bag and suck it out of the bag till they get their fill. And then restore it till they need more. The modern day vampire. I'm going to stop it at that. This took last night and partially a little bit of today to record. I'm going to get this uploaded and then I'm going to start recording some more. Hopefully I can have something out a little bit later for you guys. Once again, I apologize. My throat is killing me. I just not really feeling great. But I do want to get this out to you. William has sent me a bunch more Q&A, and I've got a lot of subscriber encounters sitting here. So bear with me, and thank you for everything, guys.